So this is the brand new xTool M2 laser engraver, and honestly, after spending the last week using it, I think this might be one of the most approachable desktop laser machines xTool have made so far. It's not necessarily the most powerful, it's not necessarily the biggest, but it possibly is one of the easiest to actually use day to day. Over the last week, I've been engraving photos onto wood, metal business cards, stainless steel bookmarks, wooden logs, and experimenting with the built-in print module, testing cutting performance, and even making a custom jigsaw puzzle for my own kids. And honestly, the experience has been surprisingly polished. Now, before we jump in, xTool did send me this machine, but as always, everything in this video is based entirely on my own real-world experience using it over the last week. And honestly, one thing I realized very quickly with the M2 is that this doesn't really feel like a traditional laser engraver. It feels much more like a creative desktop production system. So right now, the version I've been testing includes the 10-watt diode laser module, but xTool are also planning a 20-watt module for thicker cutting and higher output, alongside a 3-watt infrared module for metal marking. Plus, I also have the CMYK inkjet module, which also allows the machine to print full color images directly onto materials. And all of these modules are designed to swap in and out extremely quickly. One thing that genuinely surprised me was how little setup there actually was. In fact, setup was so quick, I didn't even bother filming a full unboxing. The machine arrives basically pre-assembled already. You remove some transport screws and the packaging, you install whichever module you want to use, plug in a little cable, and honestly, that is pretty much it. And I think that's really important, because a lot of traditional gantry lasers can feel intimidating to beginners. But with the M2, it genuinely feels like xTool wanted to reduce as much friction as possible between opening the machine and actually making something. One thing I immediately loved was how quick and easy the module swapping process actually is. The modules are magnetically mounted, and the actual cable connection is literally just a USB-C style connector. So switching from the laser module to the print module genuinely takes around 10 seconds and is very easy. And honestly, visually, I think the machine looks really nice as well. The orange tinted lid, the enclosed class 1 design, the clean industrial styling, even the orange cable management sleeve around the ribbon cable, everything feels very deliberate and well thought through. And despite having a fairly generous work area of 426 by 320 millimeters for the 10 and 20 watt laser modules, the overall machine footprint actually feels very manageable. The machine external dimensions are around 610 by 569 millimeters, but sitting here on a normal desk in my office, it never really felt intrusive or oversized. I think xTool have done a really good job of maximizing the usable workspace without making the machine unnecessarily bulky, which for me in a small office is really important. But honestly, the real star of the show for me with the M2 has been the automation and the camera system. So as soon as you close the lid, the machine automatically begins analyzing the workspace. The panoramic camera mounted in the lid captures an overall image of the bed, and then the machine intelligently identifies roughly where your material is located. Then whichever module you're using moves directly over the top of the material, automatically probes the surface height for autofocus, captures a much more detailed image using the macro camera mounted directly onto the module itself, and then it updates the workspace inside of xTool Studio, all automatically, all very easily. And honestly, it works incredibly well. The positioning has been extremely accurate, the framing has been accurate, and the overall workflow just feels incredibly smooth and well thought out. And what's really clever is the splice imaging system. So rather than relying purely on one large overhead image, you can actually tell the machine to generate detailed stitched images across a specific area on the bed. According to xTool, the system uses a 5 megapixel panoramic camera combined with a 2 megapixel macro camera, with positioning accuracy up to 0.2 millimeters and motion accuracy down to 0.01 millimeters. And honestly, based on my experiences so far, I genuinely believe it. So over the last week, I've been testing the M2 across a range of different materials and projects. I started off by engraving a large photo onto basswood plywood, and honestly, the photo engraving quality with the 10-watt module was already pretty impressive straight away. enjoy using the default settings inside of xTool Studio. But then I started running proper material test grids and refining the settings even further, and the final results ended up looking really, really good. One thing I've consistently noticed throughout the testing is that xTool Studio genuinely does a good job of making the machine approachable for beginners. The built-in material library is actually very usable, and that matters a lot because one of the biggest barriers for new laser users is simply not knowing where to start. What power settings should they use and what speed settings should they use, and sometimes even how many passes. While advanced users will obviously tweak and refine things manually, the default profile here are very solid and really beginner friendly. So alongside the wood engraving, I also engraved onto coated business cards, stainless steel bookmarks, wooden logs, leather key fobs, and a range of other materials. Honestly, the detail quality from the 10-watt module has consistently impressed me. The laser spot size on the 10-watt module is rated at 0.04 by 0.06 millimeters, and you can absolutely see that fine detail capability in the engraving results. Despite this being the lower powered 10-watt version, cutting performance has actually been very respectable as well. xTool claim up to 8mm basswood cutting in a single pass on the 10-watt module and up to 3mm black acrylic cutting in a single pass. The cuts have been clean, consistent, and surprisingly well controlled. Now, one thing I did test was batch processing using leather key fobs, and honestly, I'm actually going to leave this part in because I think it's important to show real world usage, not just perfect highlight moments. So I set up 5 leather key fobs using the camera positioning system and batch processing workflow, and the first couple engraved absolutely perfectly, but during the third engraving, one of the key fobs shifted slightly, which caused the engraving to misalign and lightly mark the bed underneath. Honestly, this wasn't really the machine's fault. It was more of a reminder of how important proper material securing still is, especially when batch processing multiple small objects. Speaking of material holding, this is probably one of the few areas where I do think the M2 could be improved slightly. The machine includes these small magnetic material clips, and I actually really like the idea behind them, but personally I do think they feel a little bit small and slightly fiddly at times, especially working with larger materials or cutting projects. My unit currently doesn't include a dedicated cutting plate or cutting rail system in the box itself. Personally, I do think including some form of dedicated cutting support out of the box would improve that overall experience even further than it already is. And this actually leads perfectly into probably my favorite project I've created on the M2 so far. So I wanted to test the full workflow from printing to camera alignment to cutting. So I started by taking a copyright-free Dinosaur image and printing it directly onto a piece of wood using the CMYK print module. Honestly, the print quality genuinely surprised me. The colors were vibrant, the details were sharp, and the overall results looked far more polished than I even expected from a print directly onto wood. What's really cool is that once the print is complete, you can switch back over to the laser module in literally seconds. So after swapping back to the laser module, the machine rescanned the workspace, automatically measured the material height again, updated the workspace image inside of xTool Studio, and I could now see my fully printed Dinosaur image directly inside the software. Then I used an online SVG puzzle generator to create a custom jigsaw outline based on the exact dimensions of the printed area. I imported the SVG back into xTool Studio, aligned it over the printed image using the camera system, applied the default 3mm basswood plywood cut settings, and I just let the machine do the rest. And honestly, this is the moment where the M2 really clicked for me, because this suddenly stopped feeling like just another laser engraver and it felt like a genuinely creative desktop machine. And honestly, seeing my kids actually sitting on the floor playing with a custom dinosaur puzzle that I'd printed and cut myself on the machine was genuinely a really cool, nice moment. I think that single project alone perfectly demonstrates what the M2 is really designed for. This isn't just a machine for engraving logos onto coasters, it's designed for creativity, crafting, personalization, educational projects, family projects, small businesses, Etsy sellers, and creative hobbyists, all of those. And honestly, because this machine feels so approachable and beginner friendly, I already know I'm going to be creating a lot more tutorials around here on the channel. So if you are interested in the M2 and want to learn how to actually use it properly, definitely consider subscribing, because I'll be doing beginner guides, project tutorials, setting videos, and workflow demonstrations for this very machine moving forward, because I like it that much. Now, another area I've been genuinely impressed with is the extraction performance. I use these machines in a relatively small office space around expensive equipment and electronics, so poor smoke handling simply isn't acceptable for me. But connected to my xTool AP2 air purifier, the M2 has actually been extremely effective at controlling smoke and smell. Even during cutting operations where there was significant smoke being generated, the rear extraction system did a genuinely excellent job of pulling smoke out of the enclosure. With the lid closed, I really wasn't getting any noticeable smell inside of the room. So combined with the enclosed Class 1 safety design, the automation systems, the cameras, the software, and the extraction, the overall experience just feels very low stress. Honestly, that's probably the best way I can summarize the M2 overall. It just feels easy to live with. Now, of course, no machine is perfect. This 10-watt version isn't designed to be a heavy production cutting machine. And if your primary goal is aggressively cutting thick materials all day long, there are definitely more powerful systems available, and they'll be getting more modules to take care of that. While the included magnetic clips do work, I do think they could be improved slightly. I'd also personally like to see some form of dedicated cutting support included in the box as standard. Because the print module requires its docking and cap system inside the machine, there is also a small section of the bed area that can't be used during print operations. But honestly, those are relatively minor complaints in the grand scheme of what this machine is actually trying to achieve. After spending the last week using it, I genuinely think this is probably the easiest xTool laser I've personally used so far. It feels polished, it feels intelligent, it feels beginner friendly, and most importantly, it genuinely makes you want to keep creating things, and that is the key thing here. So overall, I've genuinely really enjoyed my time with the xTool M2 so far, and honestly, I think for beginners, educators, crafters, Etsy sellers, families, and creative hobbyists, this could end up being one of xTool's strongest desktop machines yet. And if this video has helped you make a decision and you do decide to pick one up, I'll leave my affiliate links down below. It genuinely helps support the channel at no extra cost to you and allows me to continue creating these kind of reviews and beginner tutorials moving forward. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.